In Central Europe lies a country you rarely see on anyone's bucket list. It's a place that's often skipped or even completely forgotten, and perhaps the most underrated country in all of Europe. With breathtaking mountains, centuries-old castles emerging from the landscape, and small towns where time seems to have stood still, it completely surprised me with its rugged nature, its calm atmosphere, and its vibrant culture. In 9 days, I'm traveling straight through this country and discovering everything it has to offer. A place where nature and history continuously meet. Welcome to Slovakia. I begin my journey at the Czech border in the village of Lednica. Nestled in a narrow valley, a massive cliff rises in the middle of the village, crowned by the ruins of a castle. The first recorded mention of it dates back to 1259, but archaeological findings suggest that a fortress stood here as early as the 9th century. Over the centuries, it changed hands several times and was eventually partially destroyed in 1710 during a conflict with the Habsburgs. It is a remarkable ruin and already offers a glimpse into the country's history. After this beautiful first stop, I make a brief visit to the small town of Ilava, where an impressive castle stands right in the center. In the 19th century, it was taken over by the state, which turned it into a prison, a function it still has today. It is quite remarkable that a fortress once built to keep people out now serves the exact opposite purpose. After this short stop, I drive through the Strazhov Hills to a small hidden village called Čičmany. This magical place is best known for its traditional wooden houses with black beams and white geometric patterns. The white designs are made with lime and were originally used to protect the wood from moisture, but they also had an aesthetic purpose. The decorations include crosses, arrows, hearts, animals, and spirals, and are closely connected to the local embroidery tradition. A major fire in 1921 destroyed many of the wooden houses, but they were faithfully restored by the local community. Today, it is designated as a protected reserve of folk architecture, and walking through it truly feels like wandering through an open-air museum. After a short drive through a beautiful landscape filled with unusual objects, my first day has already come to an end. I start the second day in the town of Bojnice, not far from the village of Čičmany. I take an early morning walk through the town, which is still quiet, and through the park surrounding the castle. It is one of the oldest towns in the country and is known not only for its thermal springs that have been used since the Middle Ages, but especially for the impressive castle that has dominated the skyline for almost 9 centuries. What began as a medieval stone fortress grew into a beautiful romantic castle. The last owner had it completely rebuilt at the end of the 19th century, inspired by the French Loire castles. With pointed towers, green roofs, and elegant courtyards, the building was meant to radiate grandeur in every detail. Beneath the castle, there is even a prehistoric dripstone cave that became part of the complex. Walking around the castle, you can really see the scale of this enormous structure, which looks like it could have come straight out of a Disney film. Inside, you can find halls filled with art treasures, gilded ceilings, and Gothic altars, although it was too early in the morning for me to see them. But even the exterior alone makes it worth a visit. What an impressive building this is. It is no surprise that this is considered one of the most beautiful castles in the country. From this historic little town, I move into nature. Coming from the Czech Republic, it quickly becomes clear to me that this country is far more rugged than its neighbor. I drive through the Manínska Gorge, the narrowest gorge in the country, with a length of about 1 kilometer. In 1933, a road was built here, creating an opening of only about 3.7 meters at its narrowest point. Before that time, goods had to be transferred in the middle of the gorge because passage was impossible. A little further along the route lies another remarkable natural formation called Kosteleka Klenba. This gorge is much shorter, but the enormous rock wall with the hole in it makes this place even more special. Because of its sharp shape, it is sometimes referred to as the roof of Slovakia. Both locations have been part of a protected nature reserve since 1970. The shaded areas offer the perfect conditions for rare plants, and many climbers challenge themselves on the horizontal routes. It is a place where geology and nature meet, and seeing it with your own eyes makes it almost impossible to comprehend how it was formed. A little farther north, I begin a beautiful hike to Súľovské skaly. At the parking area there is an ambulance, and along the trail rescuers are carrying someone on a stretcher down the steep path. It is a clear reminder that hiking on trails like this is never without risk, and that it is important to be well prepared and to know your own limits. The route I am walking is about 5 kilometers long and has an elevation gain of almost 400 meters. After the first climb, I reach a remarkable rock formation. With its narrow pointed shapes, it resembles an organ, which is why it is also called the organ. A special feature of this formation is Gotika Brana, a natural rock window that is about 13 meters high and 5 meters wide. The name refers to an arch that resembles those found in Gothic cathedrals, and in the past, it was sometimes called the Broken Gate. I continue along narrow paths with steep climbs and eventually arrive at the remains of Castle Súľov. This castle was built in the 15th century, high above the valley, and served as a shelter and gathering point. Of this once impressive structure, only walls and foundations remain. Yet the combination of the rock formations and the remnants of this centuries-old castle makes this a truly magical place with a beautiful view over the surrounding landscape. It is not surprising that this location was chosen for the castle. From the castle, a difficult descent begins, with metal ladders, chains, and rings. Especially when it is wet, this descent can be very slippery. After this challenging part, the remaining 2-kilometer return route becomes easy again. A perfect moment to slow down and catch your breath. I leave the beautiful nature behind and visit the city of Žilina. With around 80,000 inhabitants, it is one of the larger cities in the country and is located in the northwest. The first mentions of the city date back to the 13th century, and in 1321, it was granted city rights. It grew into an important center for trade and craftsmanship and became a key hub in this part of the country. In the center of the city, there is a large square with typical facades. Here you can also find St. Paul Church, built in the mid-18th century by the Jesuits on the site of 5 older Renaissance houses. Inside, there is a long nave that is an excellent example of 18th century Baroque and Rococo style. Just outside the old town, there is a lower square that was originally a riverbed. In the 17th century, it housed a brewery and a butcher. And today, it is mainly a place to gather and enjoy the calm atmosphere. I leave the city again, and soon a huge statue rises high above the nearby village of Turčava. This shining statue of Juraj Jánošík was erected in 1988 to mark the 300th anniversary of this legendary Slovak freedom fighter. Although many myths surround this hero, he grew to become a symbol of Slovak freedom and pride. The statue stands at the entrance to the Vrátna-valley, where I end my day. The landscape changes rapidly. The peaks grow higher, and the rocks become more rugged. With the sunset above the peaks, I prepare myself for a new day in this beautiful region. The next morning, I start one of the most beautiful hikes in this area, and perhaps even in the entire country, the Jánošíkove diery. This gorge route is one of the most stunning and most visited in Slovakia, and I combine it with the climb to the summit of Veľký Rosutec. The route begins in one of the easier gorges, Dolne Diery. This section is the most accessible and takes you along narrow paths beside flowing streams and small waterfalls. Even if you do not want to walk the harder routes, this part alone already offers a perfect experience. After 1 kilometer, I take another path toward Nove Diery, also known as the New Gorge. This is where the real adventure begins, with steep long ladders that go past waterfalls and metal footbridges. The narrow passages make this gorge a true experience. It is about 800 meters long and has a medium level of difficulty. After a beautiful climb, the path becomes calmer and flatter again. Several kilometers farther, the most difficult of the 3 gorges found here begins, Horne Diery, also called the Upper Gorge. This route is 2 kilometers long and is the most challenging and spectacular. Here too, the trail passes tall waterfalls with ladders beside them. But this time there are not only ladders, you also make your way upward using steel chains, which is much more demanding. Along the long footbridges, more ladders, and an almost surreal gorge, you eventually reach a meadow where you can see the rugged mountain, Velký Rozsudek. Although the climb through the gorge was already quite strenuous, with more than 600 meters of elevation gained over about 6 kilometers, I continue with the next climb toward the summit of the mountain. The higher I go, the more breathtaking the view becomes. Many people consider this the most beautiful mountain of the region. The climb is very demanding, with many rocky paths and steep slopes. After about an hour of climbing, gaining roughly 500 meters in height, I finally reach the summit, which offers a stunning panoramic view. After catching my breath and enjoying this beautiful scenery, I begin the descent on the other side of the mountain. This route also leads partly through meadows and dense forests. But again, you can enjoy wonderful views. Eventually, I reach the village of Štefáňova. From this village, I make a short climb and return to Dolne Diery, the first gorge where I started. Because I took the alternate gorge early on the outward route, I now walk this one entirely. It is about 1.7 kilometers long and consists mainly of wooden and metal bridges, but also passes through spectacular narrow sections that make it a perfect ending to this hike. In total, the route I walked was about 18 kilometers long with more than 1,200 meters of elevation gain. It is certainly not an easy hike, but even if you prefer a shorter and easier route, the gorges are truly worth visiting. After this long hike of almost 7 hours, I take some time to rest and then drive east, where near the village of Oravský pod Zámok, a massive castle rises above the landscape. Orava Castle is one of the most beautiful and best preserved castles in Slovakia, with origins dating back to 1241, built shortly after the Mongol invasions. It is situated in a very strategic position on a 112-meter high limestone rock, which makes this a truly spectacular place. Over the centuries, it was expanded further and further on multiple levels, and because of its medieval character, it was even used as a setting for the first Dracula film in 1922. It is a perfect ending to this demanding but beautiful day. I arrive in the most beautiful natural area of Slovakia, the High Tatras. This protected region lies on the border with Poland and has been part of a national park since 1949, and it is also included in the UNESCO Biosphere Reserves. I am going to climb to the summit of Kôprovský štít, which is known for having one of the most beautiful views. Because there are no public roads in the area, you always walk about 3 kilometers before reaching the rugged mountains. After 4 kilometers, I reach Štrbské Pleso, a small lake in the valley where you can find a few restaurants. From here, I begin the real climb into the mountains. The High Tatras form the highest and most rugged part of the Carpathians and are known especially for their sharp granite peaks, deep glacial lakes, and steep mountain passes. Because of the compact size of this mountain range, it is often referred to as the smallest high mountain range in the world. Because today is a national holiday, the trails are busy, especially in the first part where many routes come together and people make long crossings through the mountains towards Poland. After a steep climb, I reach the second lake, Veľké Pleso, after 8.5 kilometers. It lies at an altitude of 1,946 meters and is surrounded by steep rock walls, including the summit of the mountain that I can already see clearly. From here, the final stage to the top begins. The higher I get, the more breathtaking the view becomes. The rugged ridges and the hidden little lakes make this hike feel like a real adventure. The strong wind combined with the rough terrain makes the final stretch incredibly tough. But after more than 3 hours of climbing, I finally reach the summit. At 2,363 meters, this peak lies in the heart of the High Tatras and is considered a classic alpine summit, with a rocky point, steep scree slopes, and, above all, a stunning 360-degree panoramic view. From here, you can look out over 3 valleys at the same time. In the 19th century, this point was often used by cartographers and scientists because of the wide visibility. After a moment of rest and enjoying this amazing view, I begin the descent. And even the way back, when you look into the landscape, is beautiful. You take everything and even more. This climb is considered moderate to difficult and is especially doable for fit hikers because you do not need any extra equipment and there are no chains. However, the weather conditions, especially the wind, make this hike a bit harder and more challenging in the summer months. Along the same route, I walk back calmly to the lower lake, where I take another loop around it. From the lake, you get a completely different perspective on this mountain range, with the small restaurants on the other side. On the southern side of the lake, you will find a symbolic cemetery with many crosses and memorial stones for people who have died in the High Tatras. From mountaineers and guides to rescue workers and tourists, more than 300 people are commemorated here. The motto of this memorial place is, "In memory of the dead, as a warning to the living." It shows once again that you should always be well prepared when heading into the mountains, and that no matter how experienced you are, an accident is always just around the corner. The total route I walked was over 21 kilometers long, with almost 1,400 meters of elevation gain. After just over 7 hours, I arrive back at the parking lot, and it is finally time to rest. In the afternoon, I make a short visit to the resort village of Štrbské Pleso, named after the lake it surrounds. It is the gateway to countless hiking trails, and in winter also a place for skiing. You can clearly see that the village, at an altitude of around 1,300 meters, sits much higher than the surrounding High Tatras area. I end my day in the town of Poprad at the foot of the mountain range. This town is a mix of historic buildings and modern amenities and has a population of about 55,000. It is the perfect place for a short evening walk after today's long trek and to prepare myself for another beautiful journey through the mountains. From the city, I drive back toward the High Tatras. Even from a distance, it becomes very clear that this mountain range is indeed very small. Something you don't really notice when you're standing in the middle of it. Today I'm going on a long hike to the beautiful mountain lake Štrbské Pleso. It is located on the eastern side of the massif and owes its name to the emerald green color of the water. I start the hike from the small parking area. It's recommended to begin early, not only to secure a parking spot but also to avoid the crowds at the lake. The first 5 kilometers lead through a wooded area that feels relatively gentle, as you only climb about 350 meters. From that point on, you begin to see the rugged peaks and enter a picturesque valley that becomes more dramatic and beautiful with every step. After another 2.5 kilometers, the mountain hut on the lake's shore comes into view. With the steep rock walls rising above the green water, this really is a gem in this nature reserve. Such a stunning place. It's no surprise that this is one of the most popular spots in the area, and with the relatively easy and consistent climb, it's accessible for many people. The charming mountain hut fits perfectly into the landscape and is a great place to grab something to eat or drink, and especially to take a moment to appreciate this breathtaking scenery. In total, the route is almost 18 kilometers, with around 600 meters of elevation gain. The climb is therefore relatively easy, but it is long. I return along the same trail, and just before reaching the parking area, I see that I chose the right moment. Dark clouds are starting to form above the peaks. After this hike, which took me about 4.5 hours, I drive toward the Polish border to see the mountain range from a different perspective. One of these viewpoints is Lednica, where there is a small restaurant and lookout point. On this side of the range as well, the contrast between the towering mountains and the low-lying landscape around them is enormous. It remains a remarkable sight. Near the village of Tatranska Jaworina, I visit the small, picturesque wooden church. It was built in 1903 by a German prince and landowner who owned much of this region. It is constructed in the traditional wooden Tatra architectural style, with decorative wooden details and carvings. The interior is also entirely made of wood, giving it a beautiful and warm appearance. After this wonderful day in this vast nature reserve, it's time to leave the mountains behind and continue exploring the rest of the country. The next morning, I begin with a walk through the town of Brezno. This medium-sized town in central Slovakia lies along the Hron River, between the low Tatras and the Slovenské Rudohory mountain ranges. In the Middle Ages, the town grew into an important mining settlement, mainly due to iron ore and copper, after which it became a regional center for trade and agriculture. An important landmark in the town's center is the freestanding town tower from the 18th century, which was once used as a watchtower and fire lookout. During the Second World War, Brezno played a role in the Slovak national uprising, which was largely organized from this region. Just outside the town, you can find an old partisan airfield that was constructed in the summer of 1944. It served to fly in weapons, ammunition, medical supplies, and soldiers from the Soviet Union. It remained active until the German counteroffensive in the autumn of that year, after which it was abandoned and the resistance fighters retreated into the mountains of the low Tatras. It is one of the few places in the country where the role of Allied air support is still tangible. Along the roadside, you will also find a monument commemorating the Slovak national uprising, and especially the people who carried out life-threatening missions at this improvised airfield. From this historic place in the middle of the country, I drive through the beautiful Muránska Planina National Park. Not only the High Tatras are breathtaking, this nature reserve is truly stunning as well. Along the way, through the rugged landscape, I pass many stone and steel railway bridges that blend perfectly into their surroundings. It is a vast natural area without the crowds of tourism, but with pure wilderness, wild horses, and even bears that still inhabit the region. My next stop is the small village of Dedinky. In 1950, a reservoir was created here for hydropower, but today it is better known as one of the most beautiful recreational areas in the region. In summer, it is the perfect place for hiking, boating, paddleboarding, or simply relaxing along the shores. Driving through the Slovak paradise, I arrive in the town of Spišská Nová Ves, located in a wide valley. The historic center features an elongated square of about 600 meters, surrounded by beautiful Renaissance facades. In the middle of the square stand the town's main landmarks, such as the evangelical and Catholic churches and the town hall. But the most striking building is the impressive neoclassical city theater, built in the 19th century to host social and cultural events. In the 20th century, it was completely renovated and transformed into a full-fledged theater complex, with a grand hall and a foyer in historic style. It is a quiet town with a pleasant atmosphere and the perfect base for exploring the surrounding area. About 20 kilometers east of the town, perched on a limestone hill, lies an imposing castle visible from miles away, Spišský Hrad. The first stone fort built here dates back to the early 12th century and was constructed on the site of an even older Slavic settlement. After the Mongol invasions of 1241, the castle was greatly expanded and reinforced, and a few centuries later, it became the seat of the Hungarian noble family Zápolya. At that time, this was one of the most powerful families in Central Europe, and a Gothic palace, a chapel, and several residential buildings were added within the walls. In the 17th century, the nobility moved to more comfortable palaces in the valley, and unfortunately, in 1780, the castle was struck by a fire that left the structure in ruins, a state that remains visible today. It is an enormous complex in an extraordinary location. From the tower, you have a beautiful view of the entire site, which is one of the largest medieval castle complexes in Europe, covering more than 4 hectares. This impressive structure is one of the most iconic places in the country and has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1993. It shows clearly that alongside its stunning nature, this land is also rich in history. In the late afternoon, I drive about 80 kilometers northeast to the town of Bardejov, close to the Polish border. This relatively small town is historically one of the most important in the country and is considered one of the best preserved medieval towns in Central Europe. It has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since the year 2000. When I arrive, I notice that a large fair is taking place in the town. I walk between the attractions toward the old town, then make a loop around the remaining city walls and towers. From there, I head to the main square, where an ABBA tribute band is performing on the central stage. It adds a special atmosphere to this impressive square, with the old town hall from 1509 in the background, the oldest Renaissance building in all of Slovakia. The crowds on the square create a striking contrast with the medieval surroundings, but it is wonderful to see how alive this ancient town still is. The next morning I leave the town and drive east to visit one of the country's largest cities. Soon my attention is caught by several remarkable sights in a small village. In the village of Svidnik, there is a large open-air museum dedicated to the Second World War, displaying numerous military objects. This site is closely connected to the Dukla battlefield, which was a key moment in the war. In addition to the museum, the outdoor area contains a collection of heavy military vehicles, including tanks and even airplanes. Next to the impressive field stands a large monument, which also marks a mass grave where more than 9,000 soldiers were buried. Walking across this site, you can feel the weight of what happened here about 80 years ago, though it is almost unimaginable. It is remarkable that this open-air museum, which is free to visit, still preserves and commemorates the past. My next stop is along a large reservoir that was created in the 1960s to reduce flooding of the river, but also to provide drinking water, irrigation, and recreational opportunities. The area around this vast lake quickly developed into a holiday destination with campsites, boat rentals, and beaches. Because the water level is lower in the summer months, it is easy to see from above that several villages had to be removed to make way for the reservoir. At the edge of the lake, there is still a small church protected by a surrounding dike. but not far from there, the foundations of many houses still rise from the water. Here, the past literally emerges from the water, showing how people had to leave behind entire lives to make room for this lake. I arrive in the city of Košice, located in the eastern part of the country. With over 240,000 inhabitants, it is the second largest city in Slovakia and an important economic, cultural, and historical center. I take a walk through the city, which combines a medieval center with more modern districts. In the 14th and 15th centuries, it was a member of the Hanseatic League. And in 1369, it became the first city in Europe to have its own city coat of arms, a true mark of prestige at the time. On the edge of the center, you can find Jakob Palace, a striking, almost fairy tale-like building that was originally built as an office. Unfortunately, the interior is not open to visitors. The main street in the heart of the old town is lined with beautiful historic buildings, and in the middle of the square stands the largest church in the country, St. Elizabeth Cathedral. This Gothic masterpiece was built between 1378 and 1508 and has a tower about 60 meters high. The tower can be climbed, offering a stunning view over the city and the impressive building itself. Next to the cathedral is the theater, built in 1900 in Neo-Renaissance style. With its richly decorated facades and a park-like setting with fountains, it is the perfect place to relax and enjoy this beautiful square and the historic city center. In the afternoon, I leave the country for a while to continue my journey to Romania. Just across the border in Hungary, I come across a remarkable spot, the Bridge of National Unity. Earlier in the Czech Republic, I visited the world's second longest pedestrian suspension bridge. But on this trip, I get to experience the longest, which stretches 723 meters. With its glass floor in the middle, this is truly an iconic bridge. Definitely not for those afraid of heights, as it hangs over 80 meters above the ground. The bridge was built in 2024 and is highly recommended for anyone traveling through Slovakia, as it is located only about 2.5 kilometers from the border. After my journey through Romania, which you will see in the next video, I returned to beautiful Slovakia, about 130 kilometers west of where I left the country. Here, I visit Somoško Castle, near the Hungarian village of the same name. After Hungary was divided, following the First World War, the village and the castle were separated. The border was literally drawn along the hilltop, placing the castle entirely on the Slovak side. Although it is located in Slovakia, it lies right next to the border and can only be accessed from the Hungarian side. The castle likely dates back to 1300. After various attacks, it was eventually set on fire during the anti-Habsburg uprisings in 1703 and fell into ruin, never to be rebuilt. The castle was built on a volcanic hill, and the basalt stones found there were used in its construction. This volcanic hill is still clearly visible. Just below the castle is one of the most remarkable natural phenomena in the country, a 9-meter-high basalt waterfall with perfectly formed 5- and 6-sided columns. Not only this waterfall, but also the enormous surrounding field of stones is a unique natural feature that was formed thousands of years ago through erosion and small landslides. About 50 kilometers from the border, I make a short stop in the village of Divín. Above this village towers a large medieval ruin, which also dates back to the 13th century. In the village itself stands an imposing church, completely enclosed by walls. These fortifications with towers once served as a refuge for the local population during invasions. It is fascinating to see how a religious center could serve multiple functions in a village like this. The castle and the church perfectly illustrate what medieval life in southern Slovakia must have been like, where religion and defense went hand in hand. In the evening, I take a beautiful walk through the town of Banská Štiavnica, located in the heart of the Slovak Low Mountains. Surrounded by old volcanic crater hills, it is a truly unique town with a natural setting. It was founded in the 13th century due to silver and copper mining that took place here. From the 15th to the 17th century, it was even one of the richest towns in the Kingdom of Hungary thanks to this mining. The historic town is wonderful to explore on foot and has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1993 because of its well-preserved center and ingenious mining systems. From the higher parts of the town, you can see a red building standing out just outside the town. This church was built in the first half of the 18th century as a pilgrimage site. The complex contains 14 chapels scattered over the hill, representing the 14 stations of the cross. It is a beautiful Baroque church, and as you climb to the top, you are rewarded with panoramic views of the surroundings and the famous town. In the town, you can find not only historic buildings, but also a botanical garden, established in 1958 as part of the university. Its purpose was both scientific research and the preservation of plant species, combined with education and recreation. You are free to wander through this park-like environment, which features beautiful plants and trees, including enormous sequoias. It is the perfect place to relax, especially since the town center can become quite busy. I end my day in the hills outside the town, where I spot a herd of deer. While the nature and historic towns are beautiful, it is always amazing to see wild animals in their natural habitat. It truly completes my journey. With the setting sun in my eyes, I prepare myself for the final day in this beautiful country. I start the final day in the city of Nitra, known as one of the oldest cities in the country. It was already mentioned in the 9th century in documents of the Great Moravian Empire, one of the earliest Slavic states in Europe. Today, it is a vibrant university city with a castle towering above it. The foundations of this complex also date back to the 9th century, when it served as an important power center for Prince Prabina. Later, it became a bishopric, and the castle turned into the residence of the bishop. Next to the fortification walls and the old palace building stands a large cathedral consisting of 3 sections, each from a different century. You can literally see the timeline reflected in the building, from Gothic to Baroque. The interior is richly decorated with beautiful paintings and Baroque altars that complete the impressive structure. On the grounds, you will also find a small museum about the bishopric, featuring various religious objects. And then the final stop of my journey through Slovakia comes into view. One that you simply cannot miss. The capital, Bratislava. I begin my visit south of the Danube, which flows right through the city. On this side, there is one of the best viewpoints over the city, part of the Novi Most. The lookout, built between 1967 and 1972 at a height of 95 meters, is often called the UFO because of its shape. From the roof, you get a breathtaking view of the city and the Danube, and on clear days, you can see up to 100 kilometers away. It is the perfect way to get an overview of the city from above, and you can even enjoy a meal in the restaurant, which also offers a spectacular view. I descend and walk across the bridge to the other side to visit the most iconic building on the skyline, Bratislava Castle. Perched on a hill, it has been a strategic power center, a royal residence, and an important symbol of Hungarian and later Slovak history for centuries. The hill on which it was built was inhabited in prehistoric times, and the first fortifications were constructed here in the 9th century. From the 16th to the 18th century, Bratislava even served as the capital of the Kingdom of Hungary, with this castle as the residence of the kings. In 1811, the castle was destroyed by a massive fire and lay in ruins for over 150 years. Reconstruction began in the mid-20th century, giving the castle its current recognizable shape. Inside is the Slovak National Museum, with numerous rooms full of paintings and artifacts that showcase the country's history. From the castle, I walk to the old town, where the imposing city walls clearly mark the historic center. Here stands St. Martin's Cathedral, built between the 13th and 15th centuries and best known as the Coronation Church of the Kingdom of Hungary. Over nearly 300 years, 11 kings and queens were crowned here, which is why a gilded crown sits atop the tower as a symbol of that period. I take a stroll through the historic center. The city feels compact yet full of character. Narrow streets with pastel-colored facades, cozy terraces, and lively squares make it the perfect place to experience the country's culture. Strategically located on the Danube and bordering both Austria and Hungary, Bratislava is the only capital in the world that borders two countries. It has not always been a capital. In 1783, the Hungarian capital was moved to Buda, and it was not a capital during Czechoslovakia either. In 1993, when Slovakia regained full independence, Bratislava once again became a national capital after almost 200 years. Walking through the city, you can feel its history. From the presidential palace in the north to Michalska Brana, the only fully preserved city gate from the original fortifications. For a small fee, you can climb the gate and enjoy a stunning view over the old town, with its narrow streets and colorful houses. I leave the old town via the old railway bridge. From this bridge, you have a magnificent view at sunset, with the castle and the bridge along the banks of the Danube. It is the perfect place to end my journey through Slovakia. After traveling across Slovakia, from the rugged peaks of the High Tatras to the medieval castles and beautiful squares, I end my journey with an incredible feeling. It is almost unreal that this breathtaking country, with its stunning, untamed nature and mysterious places, is still somewhat forgotten in Europe. The landscape feels raw and untouched, and the castles look as if they have stepped straight out of a fairy tale. The country truly surprised me and is a place you have to see to believe. A real hidden gem. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and let me know which place you found the most beautiful, or a spot you think I should visit next. Subscribe so you won't miss any of my travels, and hopefully I'll see you in the next part of my journey to Romania, where the bears will be waiting for me. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.